So, there were a lot of really great book releases in 2019, and unfortunately I didn't get time to read all of the ones that I wanted to, so I thought that I would discuss those that I didn't get to this year that I hope to get to potentially next year. And let me know down below if you've read any of these and what you thought of them so that I can prioritise any that you think I would really enjoy. So this isn't in publication order or anything, it's just in the order that I wrote them down. And the first one is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which is her first adult novel, I believe, and it's sort of, as I understand it, a murder mystery type book with some magical realism, and it's set at Yale University as part of the secret societies, and it's just, I don't know much more than that about it, and I'm not sure that I want to. Anything that has a mystery element, I always think it's best to know as little about as possible before going into it, but it just sounds very dark and ominous, and I like the sound of it. Then we have With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, which is a contemporary book about a young mother who dreams of being a chef, and she therefore goes to culinary school whilst also dealing with being a young single mother. And again, you'll notice a theme. I don't know much about any of these other than the general idea of the plot, and I do tend to prefer going into books that way, and this one just sounds very fun and cute, and I've heard that the food descriptions are also very delicious sounding, so I kind of want to pick this one up just for that reason. Then we have Aurora Rising by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, which are the sci-fi dynamic duo, and this is a sci-fi. It's set at a flight school in space, and the top student in the school will have the right to choose his flight team first. But when he's sent on a mission to collect a missing spaceship, or a spaceship that's found that nobody knows where it's come from, they discover a girl on this spaceship with no idea where she came from either, and he gets back and is then last to pick his team. And lo and behold, he ends up with this strange girl and all of the washouts from school on his team, and we follow them as they're assigned a mission, I believe. And it just sounds like the kind of book that will have a lot of great friendships in it, and I love reading about friendships. So definitely this one is one that I'm very keen to pick up. I also really enjoyed both Illumine and Gemina by Jay and Amy. I haven't read Obsidio yet, but I really want to get to it as soon as possible. I'm just waiting for my sister to catch up so we can read it together, as we have done with the other two books. Next we have Four Dead Queens by Astrid Schult, which follows a character who is a renowned thief and another character who is a very upstanding citizen in society, but then they're both implicated in a conspiracy that ended up with all four queens dead, and they have to join up and go on the run. And it's possible that I won't enjoy this one because it seems like books with thieves joining up with non-thieves tend not to work out so well for me, unfortunately, but that's not always the case. So I just think that this one sounds really interesting. I like the title. I know that's a really silly reason to pick up a book, but I like the title. Elliot Brooks is a reviewer that I really trust, and she enjoyed this one, so I'm interested in picking it up. Then we have The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd-Jones, which follows some gravediggers in a world where dead bodies don't necessarily stay dead, and when they rise again they're referred to as bone houses. And I really don't know anything else other than that, but that concept just sounds so interesting to me that I really desperately want to read it. Similarly, Crown of Feathers by Nikki Palpretto, all I know is that it involves people who ride phoenixes. Sold. I want to read it. I'm done. I don't need to know anything else. Next up we have The Similars by Rebecca Hanover, which is set in an elite boarding school setting, but with a sci-fi twist in that 6 clones have just joined the school, clones of people who have died in mysterious circumstances. So who are these clones? Where have they come from? Why are they here? How do we deal with seeing the faces of the dead every day? And, by the way, how did those students end up dead? Where are they? What happened to them? It sounds incredibly mysterious with a sci-fi twist, and I don't read a lot of mystery, but I do tend to like my mystery to come with a fantasy or sci-fi element, and this one sounds way up my street and I definitely want to pick it up. Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir is a book that has got a lot of hype this year. I think that there was a pretty massive marketing budget because everywhere you turned you heard about this book, but it does sound very interesting. There's Own Voices LGBTQIA+ rep, I believe, and it's also set in a fantasy world with lots of politics, which I really enjoy, and necromancy, which is not something we see a lot of in the fantasy genre, oddly enough, and I definitely want to see what all of the hype is about, but also it does sound like a very interesting concept, and so it is something that I want to pick up. It also has this, it sounds a little bit like it has a bit of a gothic theme, which isn't something that I read a lot of, so in the interest of continuing to broaden my reading horizons in 2020, I think it's a pretty good one to try to get to. Then we have Girls of Storm and Shadow by Natasha Ngun, and it's a sequel, so I can't tell you about it, but it is the continuation of the Girls of Paper and Fire, which I actually read this year, although it did come out last year. I only just managed to get to it, and it's set in a world where there are different casts of people, and the paper cast are the lowest class, and our protagonist is recruited, isn't quite the right word. She's pretty much kidnapped from her hometown and taken to become one of the king's concubines. And then she builds a relationship with one of the other concubines, and that could cause them a lot of trouble. It's a very dark book. There's a lot of very interesting magic in it, and although book one didn't end off on a cliffhanger, it does leave a lot of open threads, and so I definitely want to continue with the series to find out what is going to happen to Lay and the rest of the Paper Girls. And then, although I'm sure that there are plenty more books that were released this year that are on my TBR, the last one I'm going to talk about is Grave Maidens by Kelly Kuhn, which, let's just take a moment to observe this cover. Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. And it follows a character who wants to follow in her father's footsteps and become a healer. And then her sister is chosen to be one of the Grave Maidens. The Grave Maidens are 3 women who are chosen to die alongside the king and enter into the afterlife with him. But our protagonist doesn't really want her sister to die, even though it's perceived as an honour in this culture. She sees it for the sacrifice that it truly is, and she's not very happy about it. And that premise just sounds very interesting to me, and to be honest, I'm totally sold by the cover. I don't really need to know much more about the book than that. I'm not a huge cover buyer or cover reader, but on this occasion, the cover is just so pretty. And the premise sounds really interesting. So those are 10 books that were released in 2019 that I didn't get a chance to get to this year, but that I really want to pick up. Are there any on this list that you did read and that you enjoyed? Let me know, like I said before. If there are any on this list that you're now adding to your TBR, let me know that too. And if there are any that I didn't include on this list that you think I would enjoy, then let me know that as well. But that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks! Bye!